Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video. This is Wind Waker Unflooded, a 3D modeling fan art project where I have been reimagining the kingdom of Hyrule as it could have existed within the world and art style of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. This has been a massive project, and it's taken quite a long time to continue. And in that time, I've gotten new viewers, new subscribers, and a lot of people on this channel that maybe you haven't been here from the beginning, maybe you have questions that maybe I answered a year and a half ago, but, you know, maybe they have different answers now. Maybe there's questions that you have that I just haven't gotten to yet. Today's video is all about answering questions. What is Wind Waker Unflooded? All of these questions that you may have. So I've been collecting questions in a Google form, and now I think it is finally time to take a look at your questions. That's my introduction. Y'all, this is off the cuff, unscripted. This is the pure raw thing. So yeah, I've told you what the project is. For y'all that don't know, it is a 3D modeling fan project. That is what this is, first and foremost. But yeah, let's just go through each question individually. Do you think Nintendo will make another game in the style of Wind Waker in the future? To me, I don't want to be pedantic, but I'm like, well, it depends on what you mean by in the style of Wind Waker. Graphically, I do think there's a chance. Only because it's like, well, A Link to the Past came out, and then like what, 30 years later? Was it 20 years, 30 years? Maybe it was just 20 years, but like a significant amount of time passed, and then we got A Link Between Worlds, which was a direct follow-up. And it wasn't exactly the same graphical style, but it was like carrying over almost the exact same overworld map in a way that's like, well, that's kind of unprecedented to like have the exact same overworld carried over from a 20-year-old game. And so, like, I don't know, like, you never know with Zelda. So it's like, I can say, well, I think they're done. And the Wind Waker I thought was done. And then we get to explore Windfall Island and the Forsaken Fortress again and Hyrule Warriors, right? And I'm like, wow. So it's like, it wasn't done after all. And I don't know, like, that was so cool to me just as a Wind Waker fan. It's just like, I've played the Wind Waker countless times. And then playing Hyrule Warriors, I was like, oh, man. Now that I'm fighting, like, the Helmarok King on Windfall Island, like that's something I never thought would happen, and yet here we are, right? There's just, I don't know, I love stuff like that. But I guess just like you can never count something out, right? So it's like, will we get another game in the style of Wind Waker in the future as far as like in that continuity, in that art style? I definitely think it's possible. If you're asking as far as gameplay style, I definitely think that like the Zelda series, to me, like they are all sequels to each other. Like Twilight Princess is a sequel to Wind Waker in like a gameplay sense, obviously not in a timeline sense, but in a gameplay sense, right? And same with, you know, the series iterating, especially going into like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. To me, those are games that really do like kind of ask what works about the Wind Waker and implements that into the formula as well. Because like specifically what the Wind Waker did that was kind of like not done by other Zelda games for a long time was just this idea of like, well, you can see most of the world at once. Maybe not from the very beginning of the game, but there's a certain point where you can kind of explore most of the map. But it's just a matter of like, do you have the right items? Like, are you able to, you know, like be equipped to actually go into all of these regions? But like you can explore, and there's a lot that you can find early on, right? Like early in the game, like your first trip to Windfall Island, even like this is actually really early in the game. Technically, maybe even before the first dungeon in Wind Waker, you go to Windfall Island. And there's a lot of things you can do there that you could save for the late game, whether that's, you know, doing some of the Tingle side quest or the Killer Bees side quest and like all of these things that like you can really get started kind of from the beginning. And just like as you get more and more items, of course, you're even more equipped to do some of those quests. But yeah, it's just like that's something that Wind Waker was really unique about in a way that's maybe iterating from other Zelda games and like technically in Ocarina of Time, you can kind of start to explore a lot of the world early on, but like you can't really do much in it, you know? And Wind Waker is just like, there's a lot you can do kind of in your own order. And that's something that really Zelda didn't really lean into again until Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And so to me, it's like, as a Wind Waker fan, like who was kind of hoping for like, I love like traditional quote unquote, like linear Zelda games like Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time, and even Skyward Sword that have like a strong story. And you can just like, the game is about following that strong story. It's okay that it's linear because the story's strong. within all of those games, that's done to different effects. But I think it's strongest in a game like Twilight Princess. But to me, it's just like Wind Waker is the game that like just made me fall in love with Zelda, and it's because of its freedom, and like because that's what made me fall in love was Zelda. Like I think its story always impacted me, and like that made a difference, and I love the dungeons. But I think really it was doing stuff like the Triforce quest, right, where like I was on my own to explore and track down these maps and track down the ghost ship and all of these things. That's just like it's up to you to kind of like go out of your way to find things, and I don't know, I think that's what made me fall in love with the Wind Waker and Zelda, was that part of the game. And just to see that finally come back in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom has made me really excited as a Zelda fan. And that's something that like makes me really love those games, even though I have issues with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like critically as a critic. As a Zelda fan, I'm very happy with those, and it totally scratches the itch. So have you reached out to other Zelda channels? I know Monster Maze does some modeling, and Celtic and Bandit have great lore channels. They absolutely do. I don't think I've interacted with any of those channels specifically. I would love to, and if y'all are watching this video, I would love to collaborate. I used to do this thing called Podcast Unflooded that had a lot of guest Zelda-related or Nintendo-related channels. So I have reached out to other Zelda channels, and they have like either collaborated on this project or collaborated through the channel by being a part of Podcast Unflooded, and I've done interviews with a lot of really cool Zelda creators. And so look up Podcast Unflooded on my channel, and there's all kinds of creators that maybe you'll be surprised to see that I talk to. And yeah, and like I'm really grateful that they were all on the show. But yeah, like I guess just like I really to me something that's so fun about Wind Waker Unflooded is that it's not just a fan project. I'm not just plugging away at 3D modeling, but we have a community here, and we're full of people that love Zelda and especially love, certain aspects of Zelda. The Wind Waker has a specific type of crowd that, like I was talking about with like the exploration, and like that's what we love about it. And so yeah, like I think it's really cool just that we have our own kind of corner of the community. And I don't know, like community is definitely really important to me. So what's been your favorite part about the project? I mean, yeah, like I could say what I just said about getting our own little corner of the Zelda community, and that is my favorite part of the project. I'll say the reason I did this project. I mean, there's so many reasons that I did this project that I started Wind Waker Unflooded. It's the kind of thing that no one else was making, and I wanted to see. And so, well, if no one else is doing it, dadgummit, I'm gonna do it because I wanted to see it that badly. So, I mean, like that's why I made this project, to scratch that itch of wanting to see the Wind Waker specific version of Hyrule. And even though we got Hyrule in later games, I'm like, well, I love the Wind Waker specific art style. And so, I mean, like, that's why I did this project. But it's also, like, and I've said this before, but, like, just, like, having a reason to dig into why I love the original game, right? Having a reason to replay the game and take notes and be attentive to it. I love the Wind Waker. And just having a reason to go, well, I specifically want to look at it really attentively. I want to do this fan project that like, encourages me to think about all of not just the dialogue in the game that has different story points about the world, but also just like looking at all the models in the map and really like looking at the way they're constructed, and just like, I don't know, like having a reason. Like I love the Wind Waker. I love its art style. I love its story. I love so much about it. I love its game design. I love the music. I love so much about the Wind Waker, and just like having a reason to dig into it. Like that's why I do Wind Waker Unflooded. Like that's one of my driving reasons, is just I want another reason to engage and be attentive to this art, this piece of art that I adore. And so like that's one of my favorite parts as well. I think there's different questions asking like what's my favorite parts to model of the map. So I can kind of get into that in a different question about like what's been my favorite part about making the project. And there's several creative challenges that have come up as well. But of course, like it's all the new locations that really excites me. Like being able to work on a new version of Hyrule Castletown, etc. Like that really excites me, and that's also been one of my favorite parts of the project. Just being able to add my own spin on things. Will this project have animated movie style cutscenes to show off the various locations? Yes, and not just to show off locations, but yeah, like my goal is my plan with this project after I finish the map, I'm currently like working on scripts now, but I want to make cutscene style animated short films right? In the style of Wind Waker game cutscenes that kind of retell the story of the Wind Waker's prologue cinematically, right? That kind of like show the story of Hyrule right before the Great Flood. Ganondorf returning. How did things get so bad that a flood, was inevitable and wiped away the world, right? Like, that's the story I want to tell. And so, yes, like, I after I model the map, I'm going to be working towards making those animated little short films. And I'm very excited to, I just finished, like, outlining all of those, and I'm really excited to get into that and share it with you. Because, yeah, I'm really passionate about that. And, I mean, like, just storytelling is so important for this project. Not just as the scripts, but even as just a part of making the model for the map itself. There's still storytelling built into the modeling, and that's definitely something that I think all of us have been attentive to. All of y'all leaving your comments, everyone on my Discord. I can leave a link in the description if y'all want, but yeah, like, to go ahead and plug it, I have like a private Discord server where anyone that's really interested in the project can talk to me about it, share their ideas. But it's also like it's a great place for contributors and collaborators who want to be a part of collaborating on Wind Waker Unflooded and working on models and textures and all of that. The Discord server is a great place for looking at all of that and having those discussions and asking me questions, etc. And so, yeah, but like we have a lot of conversations before I do videos. And if you're curious about just like how I make creative decisions, part of that is bouncing ideas off of them in that community. And so that's really important. I'm just rambling. That's not even related to that question anymore. What part of this process are you most proud of? That's a great question. Am I most proud of? I mean, I think it's realizing several locations. I mean, like I could talk about the modeling and like certain models that I'm proud of and proud of the way they look and how things turn out. I can talk about that, but I think I'm proud that what makes me proud is when I open up the comments and I see how many of y'all are so excited and passionate and in love with this project in the same way that I am. And to me, it's like it's something that I'm like. I think one of the sad parts of working on this, I love Wind Waker and it always has an amount of magic, but it's like I can kind of get used to the way the map looks, right? And it's something that like there's a way in which it really affected me to start the project and start to like model things below the islands. And it was so exciting to go, oh, I can create more of this world that I've always wanted to see. And now it's like the magic has faded a little bit, but like I kind of get that spark again and get inspired again whenever I read y'all's comments, like telling me how much y'all like kind of see the magic for the first time, how much it excites y'all to finally have that moment of like, oh, like we can finally look below the ocean and see this world of Hyrule as we never got to explore before. And here it is, right? Like it's being made. And isn't that wonderful? Isn't that something that we've always wanted to see? And to me, just like that magic, that inspiration is something that, yeah, like I don't feel it every time I work on the project. There's other reasons that like I'm still excited to continue working on it. But that's just something that I'm like, I know that specific kind of spark is something that I'm like, oh, like I wish I could hold on to that for every session that I spend working on this project. But I can't. Just like I get used to things and the magic fades a little bit, like I said. But yeah, like I think what I'm most proud of is just the fact that I see so many comments from people that are affected by this project. But I guess like if you want to ask about like the specific modeling that I've done, I wonder if is there a specific part of the map? I mean, there's so much that I think is, I don't know, like I already talked about, like Hyrule Castle Town is something that like it's still in progress, but like there's a lot of stuff there that I'm like, okay, like I think I had this idea of this like lake town, right, that is like expanded off of the castle, and I'm like, I'm not even really sure if that can work, but I think it will be so important for the storytelling to kind of have this kind of like city that is opulent, but also kind of like that is so easy to crush. It's hanging over the water, and right, all it takes is just one catastrophe for the entire city to fall in a sense, right? And so it's like I'm very proud of Hyrule Castle Town and different cultural elements there. There's market stalls and an opera house, like that really excited me to model. There's like a kind of Shakespearean style globe theater in Hyrule Castle Town as well, and there's just all these things where I'm like, yeah, like it really excites me, and I'm proud of just like, I guess, just like bringing that culture into the world of Hyrule as well. I want this to be something that, yeah, really, that you really feel that like it's not just, you know, we're not just doing the bare bones here. I really want you to feel like this is a fully realized world. What percentage of how much of the project have you done? I'm gonna say I think we're getting into like the 2/3 mark, and the final third definitely has a lot left to do. But I feel confident about like we've made a lot of the broad strokes, and there's a lot of specifics to add all over, and things to like fix and etc. And still a lot of things to add, but a lot of like the important locations are already there. A lot of the major landmarks, and yeah, it's just a matter of like, you know, making things look better, adding the rest of the map, filling in the gaps. I definitely like I think we're like in that 65 to 75% range for sure. Why did you decide to make the Ice Ring Isle into a whole mountain instead of ice, instead of a rocky mountain with ice at the top? At the edge of the map where the sea starts, there are already beaches. Will there be cliffs too? And speaking about the edges, are you planning to do something similar to Breath of the Wild, where outside the map you can still see them fields, mountain, deserts, and sea in the distance? Thank you. I love this project. It inspires me to someday make draw a map of my own. Excuse me. Thank you so much for your comment. I'm really glad that this inspires you. Some really great questions. Let me start with the edge of the map where the sea starts. Let me kind of break that down. So there are already beaches. Will there be cliffs too? Yes. So yes, like I definitely like in the vein of Breath of the Wild is kind of what I'm planning on for the edges of the map. The way I'm doing it is that like there will be like an ocean to the east side, and so it's like there's going to be like Hyrule's going to kind of end in beaches, and we'll have maybe a couple islands even like in the distance on the east side of the map. The left side, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to handle it, but whether it's like a cliffside drop off or whether there's just like an impassable mountain that just comes out of the ground on the western edge. But yeah, like I guess just like I do want there to be like some, like you're asking, like, are you planning to do something like Breath of the Wild where outside the map you could still see some fields, deserts, mountain, and sea in the distance? Like yeah, there's gonna be like some kind of like approximations of world in the distance. It's not just gonna be like a cutoff. I want it to feel like immersive, but it is something that's like, yeah, like after a certain point it will be less detailed, and like yeah, like that's gonna be something that, yeah, like you see a less detailed world in the distance, but enough that it doesn't break immersion. That's definitely kind of my goal. Why did you decide to make the Ice Ring Isle into a whole mountain made of ice instead of a rocky mountain with ice at the top? Yeah, I think you could do it either way. And honestly, like that's a part of the map that I kind of want to redo because of that. Because I'm like, well, either it's a magical ice mountain or I should make it a rocky mountain with ice at the top. And I'm not exactly sure how I want to handle that yet, but it has been on my radar that like maybe I want to do another approach. But there's options, and I don't mind it the way it is. I think it's just something that's like, yeah, like it would have to be kind of like magically done that way, which is like, I think that could work. You could say that there's like a great fairy that lives there and is making this like snow cloud like consume the region. Like there's ways to kind of like make that make sense. Right, and it be this entire snowy mountain that's like kind of like strange that it's the way it is. But it is something that I'm like, when I did that originally, I thought it'd be nice to make the whole mountain a snowy region so that you could have some other like snowy, places of interest there. Maybe like an Anuki village in the world of the Wind Waker's Hyrule. Like that could be interesting. But yeah, it was just like, it was a creative decision. It's still one that I'm not sure about. I guess I'll say that like I have different levels of confidence with different parts of the map. And there's some decisions that I've made that I'm like sure of, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I did this because I wanted to do it. And there's other decisions that's like, well, it's a big map and not everything is super intentional. Like I think there is creative intent throughout all of the project, but there are some parts of the map where I'm like, well, this made sense at the time. The video I'm the most proud of. I was really proud of. I just did like a progress update where I recapped like pretty much like most of the work on the project, and oh man, it's something where like I could have ranted about it for an hour, and I was like, I want to keep this under 20 minutes. I want it to be something that like new viewers can kind of put on and quickly get a feel for what's already been made. And so it's like that's something that like I'm proud of. Just like it's like a quick recap that like I didn't ramble too much. But also it's like there's videos that I've been a part of that aren't even on my channel that I'm proud of, like some of my collaborations. Swagmaster, who's been a collaborator, did a video a couple of months ago. Oh, how long ago was it now? Let me pull it up while I'm talking, just so I can read you like the exact video title, because I was really proud to have been a part of this video, and like I thought it was really interesting, and I hope it got a lot of views. But yeah, here we go. It was called "I Fixed Tears of the Kingdom Story," and it was on Swagmaster's channel. It was 8 months ago. And what his goal of the video was essentially to rewrite the story of Tears of the Kingdom to kind of just fix all of his issues with it. And I was so proud to be a part of it. I didn't do much. I gave him like a couple of notes on the script, and I did voiceover for the video. I'm the voice of Ganondorf, and if you're listening to my voiceover in this Q&A video and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense, then just watch the video. And I also did a video on this channel about like the process of recording that and doing the voice, and yeah, like I can be a bit of a voice actor. Let me know if y'all need any any voiceover in y'all's projects. But yeah, like I was just really proud to have been a part of that. And even though like it was totally his project, just like I was proud of him. I guess just like, because yeah, like I guess I totally feel that like there's so many Zelda games that I definitely feel like they're not a perfect version of themselves, but like you can definitely kind of imagine that like starting with the same kind of concept, how do you make it better? And that video is just such a good example of like still respecting the creative decisions of Tears of the Kingdom, but then like making the story make a little bit more sense. And so I don't know, I really respect that. And yeah, like that's the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, like to me it reminds me in a way of Wind Waker Unflooded, which is taking the world of the Wind Waker and adding more to it. And it's like this is something I wanted to see that wasn't made in the project, and I don't know, just I love that. That resonates with me. Let's answer this question, and I want to go quicker through these next questions. What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them during the creative process of the project? What's been the hardest model in the map? That's a great question. There's so many challenges that I've faced. And I think like the biggest challenge has, I don't want to complain about this, but I think it is just like, it's a challenge. I'm not upset at this challenge, but it's difficult, is that just everyone has their own ideas of what is right for this project in their own way. And I'm not complaining about that. But it is something that's like, how do you navigate like questions like whether you're trying to take elements from other games and it's like, well, does it make sense in the project? Like that's something that's been not like controversial in a bad way, but it's something that like people have different opinions on, like whether the Great Plateau makes sense in the world of Wind Waker Unflooded, right? Is that something that like could have been quote unquote off screen during the events of Ocarina of Time? Like it could have existed in that era. We just didn't see it in game. Like maybe, right? And that's just like, that's kind of interpretive, and that's just kind of up to each individual about like whether that's something they're cool with and stuff like that. And so I think the biggest challenge has just been figuring out those kinds of questions, especially things that like people disagree on and have their own takes. And it's just something where I'm like, it's hard to find a consensus, and it's hard to know what makes the most sense within the community. But it's like, well, when there's a difference of opinion and kind of everyone has their own idea, there's a certain point where I just kind of have to make my own creative decision based on what interests me and what makes the most sense for the project, and you know what I think would be more interesting for the project. So that's just kind of how I overcome them, is like I collaborate with people. This is very much a collaborative team effort, but it's like this is like I'm leading the project, and so I get to kind of make decisions and kind of be the arbiter of like, well, yeah, this is what I have to express, and it's my project. And if there's ever kind of trying to figure out, I don't say that as to be a dictator. I say that just as like, well, that's how I resolve those issues, right? Is like when there's disagreement, I get to kind of be able to come in and say, well, all right, like maybe we're not exactly sure how to address these questions, but I can make a decision just based on what's most interesting to me. And that's definitely not easy, and that's led to a lot of things where I'm like, maybe I'm not confident about how to address all of these things. Like I said, especially including locations from other games, like Labrina and Holodrum. Are those parts of Hyrule? Are they a separate continent entirely? Who knows, right? Like it's not confirmed, and so it's like that. It's just like there's things that are hard about that. And what's been the hardest model in the map? I think, just like I said before, one of the bigger challenges was Hyrule Castle Town, because it's a total new redesign, but it's been really satisfying to work on it. And so that's definitely been a challenge. There's been a lot of challenges, and there's models that I want to remake, that I think could be hard in the future because I want to kind of give them another look. Like the Forsaken Fortress is kind of messy right now, and I want to like work on kind of like remodeling it to, I don't know, like I really want it to feel like the Wicked Witch of the West castle, right? I want it to feel like that, like this kind of big imposing fortress in the desert, like on a mountain, right? But I feel like I need to give it a little more work. That's just how it goes. This project's not done yet. There's more work to do. Much of Unflooded's map thus far reminds me of many Hyrules from the 3D era games, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild. Is there any inspiration taken from the 2D era games, Link to the Past, Zelda 1 and 2, etc.? Yes, yeah. There's definitely like, I have collaborators that have recreated locations from the different 2D Zelda games. I know that there's people right now working on stuff like the Four Swords, like Sanctuary. Already in the map, there's like some locations from Zelda 2 with I think the Northern Palace and like the Island Palace, like the King's Tomb era. Like their area, there's a couple of different things that make sense within the project and like geographically things that we can kind of defend. Definitely stuff from A Link to the Past. I worked on the Eastern Palace, recreating that within the world of Wind Waker Unflooded. I think I put in like a small little reference to like the like area 1, like screen 1 from Zelda 1, so that there's just like a little area with like a forking paths and a cave where you would get the sword in Zelda 1. Like that's a part of the map. And so yeah, like there's just little stuff like that where there's definitely like we're borrowing ideas from the 2D Zelda games and trying to incorporate locations that can make sense. But yeah, definitely like I think like you said, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Breath of the Wild, those are definitely like some of the main contenders for like what I'm really basing Hyrule off of. And it's also like I'm basing Hyrule off of the map that you see in the backgrounds of the map. Excuse me. The map that you see in the backgrounds of my videos, like if you see that below the model, that is a map by Jacob Zechariah, who like did all of the creative work, like, 10 years ago, figuring out like what the world of the Unflooded Hyrule could look like, how the Wind Waker's sea chart locations could match up with different Hyrule landmarks. And so like that's been a huge help as well. For your films, have you started working on a script and or taking ideas? So yeah, like I said, is like I'm working on these animated like game style cutscenes that will be short films kind of retelling the world of retelling the prologue of the Wind Waker, essentially, like the lead up to the Great Flood. I have started working on the scripts and I'm very excited to keep moving forward with it. So yeah, like I just finished outlining, and yeah, I'm really excited to get into those scripts. I think they're going to be something really special. And I kind of don't want to say too much. I've talked a little bit about the story before on this channel, but I think at this point maybe it makes more sense to kind of save it as a surprise. There's some stuff that like I think is going to be really special. I'm very passionate about it, and it's definitely something that like I've tried to be really in tune with, making sure it matches the philosophy of the Wind Waker, right? Making sure it complements the story of the game. And obviously it's like me as a writer, I have my own ideas, my own takes, right? And like I have my own perspective. Of course, like that's going to affect things. As an American, that even affects things. But like I am trying to really make sure that it complements the original Wind Waker story. I'm very excited about the project. It really seems like they are playing Breath of the Wild, but nostalgia. And my question is this, first off, this is not a mod. They're asking, is this mod completed and will it be released this year? I'm not making a mod on this channel. I have no experience with game design. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm making a 3D model that is, essentially fan art of the world of Hyrule. But yeah, like I have no experience in making mods. That's not what I'm doing on this channel. But I do want the map to be like, as a model, I want the map to be completed this year. I can't speak to it being released. This map may never be publicly released. But I can tell you that yeah, like I do want to finish the model this year, and I'm very excited to be able to showcase it in these videos, and like I'm very excited to keep up the progress. Is this going to be, yeah, and this goes into the next question, is this going to be an actual playable game? I'm not making a game. That's not what I'm doing here. That's not my expertise. Yeah, like I said, I'm working on the model. I'm working on these short films. That's what I can do. And I'm very excited about that. And those are things that like I'm really passionate about. But yeah, just like this channel. I'm not a developer. I'm not making a game. I can say that. What are the current major plans for 2025 in terms of development or modeling for this project? Yeah, so like I said, yeah, I want to finish the modeling of this project before the end of the year. That's my goal. So, I mean, this has been several years in the works, but I would love to finish modeling the map before the end of the year. And it may be something where it's like I finish it and then I keep looking at it. I'm like, all right, there's some small details left to add, but we'll see. We'll see just what that looks like. And our final question, why do you look so much like Lin-Manuel Miranda? What can I say? We both have good genetics, I suppose. No, yeah, I get this all the time. Y'all have no idea how often I get this. I'll be in public and people will tell me, they're like, has anyone ever told you how much you look like Lin-Manuel Miranda? I get it all the time. He's really talented. He's a great musician, and if there's anyone that I just happen to look like, he's not a bad person to look like. But but it is funny how much I get this. But anyway, these were great questions, and I've spent half an hour responding to them. And so I hope that this is helpful for new viewers. And I don't know. I think y'all can tell how much I care about this, how passionate I am about Wind Waker Unflooded, and thank you all so much for watching. And without further ado, I'll let you go. Now, if you're looking for other ways to support me, as always, you can support me as a creator by becoming a member on Patreon. There you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive behind-the-scenes content like in-progress outlines, scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, and even soundtracks for my newest films. By becoming a member, you'll also be thanked in the credits for any film I finish during your membership. You can also support me by streaming my music. I compose all of the scores for my own short films, and you can listen to those soundtracks on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. Just look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Y'all have a wonderful day, and without further ado, I'll let you go.